Hi everyone, welcome to my Southwest Coast Path post-hike review. It's a big mouthful, isn't it? It's 10 weeks or so now since I finished the walk, and I've just finished editing all the videos, so I promised on the last one to do a review of the walk, so this is it. Lots and lots of people have asked me, what was your most favourite bit? It's nigh impossible to say, if I'm honest with you. So I've broken it down into my top three, should we say, because there was hardly any part of the walk that was horrible, but the top three bits are as follows. Padstow to Beryl's Point in North Cornwall. Luckily I had 2 days of glorious sunshine, but the scenery around there was absolutely spectacular. The colours of the sea, the azure and the turquoisey colours, gloriously sandy beaches, and it was relatively gentle walking because it was mostly headland walking, not too many savage climbs or anything like that. So yeah, that was absolutely stunning. No doubt the weather made a massive difference, because obviously if you had pouring down rain, and you probably wouldn't think it was as spectacular as it was for me anyway. Another one was Marazion to Lizard in South Cornwall. Once again, some spectacular scenery, fairly easy walking, and you got lovely rocky outcrops. So I mean, there was one or two tough climbs on that bit, or certainly a steep descent into Kynance Cove, etc. But once again, say a lovely sunny day, so yeah, it was just thoroughly enjoyable day. And the other one was from Mountbatten, just the other side of Plymouth, to Big Briony in South Devon. That one had a few stiff climbs, to be honest with you, but the scenery spectacular, especially round the River Yelm. I mean, that estuary is, in the sunshine that I had, absolutely to die for beautiful, and that the memories of and some of the photographs I took of that will be forever cherished, if I'm honest with you. So those are my top three, or the best parts. Equally, people said, well, what was the worst bit? There were some incredibly tough bits. Pretty much the whole north coast of Devon is really hard work. There's so much climbing to be done. Now maybe because that's where you start your walk from, that it seems the toughest, because there were a few brutal climbs towards the end of the walk, but obviously I was a lot fitter by the time I finished the walk, so they didn't seem as bad. But so all of North Devon was tough, but pretty at the same time. I mean, the obvious part of that, Hartland Quay to Bude, is renowned. You've got 9 incredibly steep valleys to climb up and down, all in one go, if you do that section in a one, which I did. So it was tough, but ultimately it was actually enjoyable. You need to know that it's tough, but you can enjoy it. I had a lovely sunny day, so it wasn't too bad, but hopefully that's lovely cyclists that come past my house shouting and swearing at each other. But anyway, another tough stretch was actually Dartmouth to Brixham. It was a mixed day, so weather-wise, so that might have clouded my judgment, but it was hard work, but it wasn't, I didn't hate it at all, but it was quite tough. But I think undoubtedly the bit that I really did not enjoy, and not that I ever wanted to give up, but if there was a stretch that I came closest to giving up, it would have been the stretch from St Ives to Pendine Watch. Not that there was any particularly tough climbs, but throughout most of that stretch you're scrambling over boulders, and I'm talking giant big boulders. And when you've got an incredibly heavy pack, which I'll go into in a bit, but when you've got an incredibly heavy pack on your back, it is so easy to slip and twist and certainly sprain an ankle, if not break an ankle or break a leg or hip or any other bone. So on the day I did it, we'd had heavy overnight, or we'd had rain the night before with a little bit of drizzle whilst I was doing it, because I did that stretch over a period of 2 days, because I stopped at Zena, but it just seemed never ending. You didn't seem to make any progress, and yeah, so I didn't enjoy it at all. There were one or two gorgeous views, but that didn't quite make up for what a complete and utter pain that stretch was. So yeah, that has got to be my worst part of the trip. There was another patch in South Devon that was tough. I think it was Treen to where are we? Mountbatten. I think if you've watched all the other videos, you'll have said that I found that, or heard that I found that the toughest stretch so far when I recorded that video. It was incredibly tough because there was an awful lot of climbing. Once again, there was some boulder scrambling. That particular stretch of the path was very badly overgrown. Luckily, it was fairly dry, so you didn't get soaked. So that was a tough morning, but it was only a morning, so it hasn't stuck in my memory like the St Ives to Pendine Watch thing has. So that's why that didn't come out on top as being the worst stretch. Anyway, that's enough of that. As you can see, I've got a beer, a Doom bar, because you might as well have a reminder of where you were. So I've written down a little list of questions that people might have asked me, might need answering. So going on from that, little drink is, do you need to be fit to do the path? Well, obviously you got to have a degree of fitness, because if you have never walked any distance at all in your life, you're a bit of a couch potato, then you're going to struggle. However, depending on how you do it as such, as in, do you carry a heavy pack or do you have somebody transport all your luggage for you, as to how fit you need to be and how much you want to do in one day. Yes, there are some tough climbs, but most people who've literally, perhaps they're not obesely overweight, should be able to manage. And I got myself a bit fitter, shall we say, prior to doing the walk, albeit I lost some of that because I had a niggling Achilles injury that stopped me from doing any training for the 6 weeks prior to the walk. But the best form of training actually is just to do it. I undoubtedly got twice as fit by the end than what I was at the beginning. I was relatively fit at the beginning, but I got an awful lot fitter by the end, despite the fact that I was drinking far too much of this stuff every day. But as I said on my video, I sweat a heck of a lot, so I needed to replenish the fluid somehow, so you might as well make it enjoyable. That's what I say. So yeah, going back to that, do you need to be fit? No, not really. Not really. You will get fitter doing it. So providing you're not a complete couch potato, you have actually done some walking before, just gradually build yourself into it. You do see some people who you set off, I'm going to do 20-25 miles a day. Well, unless you're super fit, you're not going to be able to maintain that. You're just not. So start slowly and gradually build it up. I did a few. Well, to me, I class as monster days. 2 or 3 19-mile days, 1 22-mile day, a few 17 16-mile days. But on a whole, I think it averaged out, my daily mileage averaged something just below 14 miles a day, something like that. And listen to your body. Sometimes your body says, I don't want to play, and other times you feel fit and raring to go. So just go with the flow. People have asked me how much it cost. It cost me roughly £5,000, which sounds a heck of a lot of money, considering I didn't do it the most expensive way, because the most expensive way would be to stay in bed and breakfast every night and to get your luggage transferred every day. That would cost you an absolute arm and a leg. I mostly stayed in campsites, which obviously there is a cost implication in staying in a campsite as opposed to wild camping. I did that purely for comfort levels. I like a shower because I sweat so much. So yeah, I wild camped twice and that was it. But I also stayed in more hotels and B&Bs than what I originally planned to do. So I think that was 12 of those, I think. So that obviously added up. And then going out and having a few of these every night, that added up. And my pack, when I started, was 20 kilos, and even when I finished at the lightest, it was 16 kilos, and that was hardly carrying any food or cooking equipment. So if I ate out every day, which obviously had cost money, but if I'd have done it a cheaper way of buying and cooking my own food, then I'd have had to carry more stuff. I didn't want to do that, so that's why it perhaps cost me more than what some people could have done it for. But yeah, all I would say is that it will cost you money, even if you're doing it on the bare bones. I still think it's going to cost you a couple of grand easily, but maybe other people will tell me otherwise. Kit. Do you need any special kit? It depends, once again, how you're doing it. I was backpacking, camping, so obviously I needed to have a fairly big rucksack to do that with. I have the Osprey Atmos 65 AG. It's looking a bit dirty now, but I have to say this thing was an absolute beast. It's put up with an awful lot of shit, and nothing, I mean nothing, has broken or gone wrong with it. All the zips work fine, all the buckles and everything. Yes, it's not the lightest rucksack in the world. I don't know what its official weight is, but yeah, it's not particularly light rucksack. It's comfortable. It started slipping towards the end, but I just never got around to rejigging it properly. But now whether I needed one that big, excuse me, a lorry's just gone past. Whether I needed one that big, who knows? Because I took an awful lot of stuff with me. I ended up posting quite a lot of stuff home that I realised I didn't need. But I still think that was necessary for such a long hike. I have subsequently bought myself a smaller backpack. I'm going to try using. I haven't actually used it yet for shorter hikes, but for a 2-month-long hike, then I think it was necessary to have something that big. But other people will tell you otherwise, so just go with what works for you. These things, poles, as far as I'm concerned, especially with a heavy pack like that, an absolute godsend. I could not have got up some of the hills, certainly as quickly or as easily as I did, without these things, and even more so going down the hills. I mean, I was suffering right towards the end, coming down Houndstooth, or it's called, cliff near Worth Matravers. My knees were really starting to complain, and I'm not sure I could have come down that without those poles. And there were certainly lots of other occasions where the ground was slippy, help improve my posture when I walk. And they just it's like 4-wheel drive going up a hill with these things, and a good braking system coming down. So I cannot recommend them enough to anybody else that's considering doing or doing the walk at all, but certainly doing the walk with a heavy pack on their back. What other kit? Oh yeah, my footwear. I am somebody that likes boots. Always have done, always will do. Yet to try proper walking shoes. Lots of people swear by them, and I will do one day have a go with them. I've got trainers on, but they're not the same. So I will try walking shoes at some stage. But as I say, I'm somebody that wears boots, always has worn boots. Used to wear boots at work, so I've worn boots pretty much every day of my life for the last 30 odd years. So I'm, excuse the motorbikes. So yeah, I'm somebody that likes, used to having boots on my feet. Some people just can't stand, but boots work for me. These particular ones are the lower Renegades, and I have to say they performed wonderfully. They're starting to, I don't know if you'll be able to see it all, where are we? Starting to wear out a little bit on the soles, but there's still plenty of tread left in them. I reckon there's another good 400 miles left in these. I did have to replace the insoles that I put in anyway before I set off, because I wore a hole in the left hand ball of my foot. That was when I got to Plymouth, and although it wasn't an issue at that point, it was starting to get uncomfortable. I knew I couldn't finish the walk without replacing it, so I replaced it in Plymouth. But yeah, that was the only thing that really sort of wore out on them. The rest of the thing, you'd hardly even know I'd done any miles on the inside of the boot. I don't know if it'll show up at all. But yeah, so yeah, thoroughly recommend those, although I'm not sure you can buy them anymore. I haven't got it out, but my tent was an MSR Hubba Hubba NX2, which is a 2-man tent. You can get the MSR Hubba Hubba NX1. I chose a 2-man tent purely because if you had to be holed up in it, as I was for 2 or 3, maybe 4 evenings when it was chucking it down with rain, it was nice to have that little bit of extra space to move around, get your kit out, to even get my rucksack in the tent with me, and be able to sort through my kit and stuff like that, which you might struggle to do if you're in a 1-man tent. The difference is I think my one's 1.7 kilos and the 1-man version's 1.2 kilos, so there's a weight difference, but I decided to carry that extra half a kilo because just give me a bit more space. You can get, if you're prepared to spend a heck of a lot more money, excuse me, much lighter tents. You know, dream factory time. If I win we'll come into some money anyway. There is an American tent that you use your poles to hold it up, and it's made out of I forgot what it's called now. Dyneema, is it something like that? Cuban fibre, and it weighs a little over half a kilo. 2-man tent, so yeah, but by the time you've paid the import costs and whatever, that'll be about 800 quid, so I can't justify spending that at the moment. But anyway, in the future, maybe. Yeah, and that, as far as major kit, is all you really need. Lots of other little things that I carried, but I won't go into now. But yeah, those are the 4 main sort of items that you're definitely going to need. People have said, would I do it again? Cool, in a flash, if I could afford to, that was. Yeah, I absolutely loved it. I mean, I was incredibly lucky because I hardly had any bad weather at all. I think it was one wet morning when it was howling, howling gale and rain, and then a few rainy afternoons, but luckily I got the tent in. I think I only actually walked in the rain 2-3 times, and even for that wasn't for very long. So yeah, I was incredibly lucky for Britain. Would I recommend it to anybody else? Of course I would. You don't have to do it like I did it. You can do it in stages like most people do it. But if you have got sort of 8 weeks to spare, 7 or 8 weeks, then I could thoroughly recommend doing it in a oneer, because you get into a groove when you're doing it in one go. Whereas if you sort of keep coming and going, especially if you're carrying a backpack, it takes you a good week or so to sort of get back into the swing of things. So unless you're permanently fit and doing stuff. So yeah, that's the advantage of doing it in one go. But most people can't afford that time off, so whichever way works for you. I, as an incentive to finish the walk, not that I actually needed one in the end, but just as an incentive to not give up in case that ever came or became likely, I raised money for Mind, and thank you to everybody that donated, because I've raised over £1,300, so I'm dead chuffed with that. I didn't do it just to raise money, I did it for me mostly, but as an extra incentive, raising a few quid for a charity I think is well worthwhile, then I'm glad I did that. Anyway, I hope that's answered a few questions. If it hasn't, then drop me a comment and I'll see if I can answer any furthers. But thanks for watching and listening, and good health to you all.